Hello everybody, today's video is going to be just like the title. We are going to be trying to make a $10 tarantula enclosure. If you've ever kept any kind of like animal, for me it's tarantulas, I get a lot of them, but these enclosures can get pretty pricey. I'll show you. Now, I really do enjoy these kinds of enclosures. They're around $40 each, and they are very appropriate for most adult tarantulas. Maybe not if you have something fossorial. They have great ventilation, they provide plenty of space, and as you can see, the majority of my tarantulas are living in one of these. With a couple of these enclosures I got off Amazon, they're not the same species, the same brand as these. These are from Repzilla, I believe, and I'm not too sure what this is. Here is my most expensive enclosure, the Exoterra. I spent around $75 on this one, but I do not recommend it due to the mesh lid. Right now I have a baby in there that is constantly burrowing, so I'm not too worried about her crawling on the mesh lid. But when they do crawl on that mesh, their feet can get stuck, they can get hurt, they can chew out, so I really don't recommend, even though this was the most expensive enclosure I got. It's also the first one I bought for my first tarantula before I was educated otherwise. So that is usually how much I'm spending on enclosures. These pieces of wood can be up to $12. They're cork bark, and recently I've been making my own wood instead to save some money because the outside wood is also very awesome. But the majority of my tarantulas have this cork bark. Here's hole 7. Plenty of cork bark happening. But today I really want to challenge myself and make a very cheap tarantula enclosure, so we are going to try to make one with the budget of around $10. I already have a couple things like the dirt and the decoration, so mostly we're talking about the container and how you can turn some other items into effective enclosures and how to make them perfect for a new spider. Now, let me show you the spider that I'm making the enclosure for. This is Lily. She is a purple bloom tarantula, also known as Pamphobetis. Sorry if I'm botching the name. Pamphobetis sp. She recently molted and now she is just too big for her little temporary container. So she will be upgrading today. Now, here's what I will be using to make the enclosure personally. I found this at my local Ross or Burlington, and it is a produce keeper, but if you see the size, it's a very good size. I think Lily will last in here for a long time. It was only $8, and basically, let's look inside. It has 2 parts, but after we take off this lid, we can see that this black part is very easily removable, and we get this beautiful container. And it can hold plenty of dirt, which is good, especially for these sub-adults. They like to dig. And it is a good size. She can grow quite a bit in here, maybe even stay in as an adult, but because of her species, I believe she will need something a little bigger in the future, but this should be good for about a year or so. So let's turn this into a working enclosure. What do we need to do? Now, first in this process, I'm just going to be removing this paper stuff. Here I'm just taking a little measuring tape and making reference points about 1/2 inch between them. This will just give me a good idea of where I need to drill the holes, and overall just make it a much easier process for myself and much more simple. Now, I did end up making the first row of holes way too high. It would have interfered with the lid, so I moved it down about 1 inch. So I recommend making sure you know how much space the lid will take up before starting your first row of holes. But that was just a mistake on me, and it's very easy to fix, so you'll see later on when I drill, I do avoid that first row and I just move it down a little. And voila, we have all of our holes pinpointed. This will just give us a bit of a reference whenever we're drilling into the holes. But more importantly, let's talk about what kind of plastic to use. If you want to make an enclosure out of a plastic container, I would really recommend only using food grade plastic. If a person wouldn't put their food into it, you shouldn't really put your animals into it. This is because a lot of not food grade plastic can just seep into anything if it has moisture in it, which you do have to provide moisture for tarantulas. It'll seep in, it's not good. So I really recommend doing food grade plastic just to be extra safe. Usually these are still very cheap, so go wild. And then next, you don't have to do as many holes as I did. For example, you don't have to do it on all 4 sides. You could definitely do it on just these 2 sides. Just make sure they are parallel to each other so there can be cross ventilation. The more ventilation, the better usually. Just make sure you're not going to put your dirt up at your holes or else it'll block them. This cross ventilation really does help mold to not reproduce inside of your enclosure, and it's just overall very good for your spider, especially if you're making an arboreal enclosure, say for like a pink-toed tarantula or such. I really recommend doing cross ventilation. It's definitely a necessity. Now, after all of this setup, it's time to get to drilling. Okay, so now that all of the holes are drilled, we're just gonna clean this up, wipe the plastic that's stuck here, maybe sand it a little bit, and then of course wash all of the little particles out, and then we will be ready to go. Now I'm just gonna go in with a little bit of rubbing alcohol in order to get these Sharpie marks off of it, and it comes off just like that. The holes are looking very good. I'm very happy with the way they turned out. After this, just going to give it a little rinse with some water and make sure it's all clean. And now that it's all clean, it is completely ready to start decorating. I still have a little water, but that's okay. We are ready to start setting up the enclosure, and I'm going to show you what I will put in it, which we're going to start with a bit of dirt. For my tarantula's dirt, I love to stick to this coconut fiber bedding. It's really great. You can get quite a few bricks of it for, oh my gosh, I can't pick it up, for pretty cheap. I don't think I spent more than $15 on this, and this makes like several gallons of dirt. You can buy it in bulk and have it for later. It'll expand a ton, just add some good water. And overall, it's really great. It's super soft for their feet, retains moisture well, but also does not retain it so much that mold can grow. And I really just love this. I've had only success with this substrate. I don't like the ones that are more like wood chips. Those can hurt your tarantula's feet. So I do really recommend this stuff. I love it. Now, I've got a huge box of this stuff because I usually moisten a couple bricks at a time, so I always have dirt available. And I'm gonna be just scooping in quite a bit of dirt. I assume she'll want to dig a bit, and I really love the amount of width that this container gives you. So we are going to take advantage of that. That's 3 scoops. 4 scoops. Let's smooth this out and see how it looks. Now, after smoothing out 3 scoops of dirt, we don't have that much in there, so I'm going to go in with another 3 scoops and see. I just want her to have around this much substrate so she can burrow herself, especially on this side. I always like to do a little hill, giving them some variety. 3 more scoops of dirt later, and we have a perfect little hill. Her hide will go on this side so she can dig, and her water bowl and other things will go on this side. So she has a little bit of a variety. Now, I was really excited to use these produce themed water bowls for her, but she is still a little too small because she is around the size of it. But when she's older, I think I'm going to give her the special purple one because she's kind of pinkish and I think it matches her aesthetic. But for now, she's just going to have the little water bowl that she's used to due to her size, and she will be getting one of these when she's older. Lily's tiny water bowl is now in here, and I'm going to give her some new flowers while using some of these older ones. I still like them, and a couple of these rocks I already have in there. For her hide, I'm going to give her a piece of wood I got outside. I love to check for nice pieces of wood when I go on walks, and then you can just take them home, dry them out, and bake them at around 200 degrees for around 2 hours, and everything inside will be killed. It saves a lot of money because pieces of cork bark can go for like $9 a piece, but this one gives her a great area to burrow. It also gives her somewhere to climb. It's just all around very great for them. Here we go. I buried this end of the wood a little bit inside so she can have a little area to hide, crawl around, you know, all of that good stuff. She can stand here, just have a lot of fun, and she can go in there to hide and burrow. For aesthetics, I'm just going to be adding little sea decor. I think the starfish is really cute, and a little shell or two just to give it a little more life. Boop. I have this set. I also have a coconut here, which I think would be a great hide for a smaller tarantula. But otherwise, I think these are very fun and a great addition to any enclosure. Just adds a bit of life and a bit of texture for them to walk on. Going in with a bit of sphagnum moss. I've only ever bought one bag of this stuff and I put it in every enclosure I have. It's just good for a little bit of texture and retaining a bit of moisture. I just think it's a nice touch to the enclosure. So I like to add it, you know, especially around these wooden pieces. It feels a little more real. Next I have a few dry catappa leaves. I'm not really sure what the plant is called, but just adds a little more fun to the situation, you know, a little more decoration. We all love it. Last but not least, I have a few fake flowers. I have a couple bouquets of them, so I will be feeling around what fits here, but I'm thinking of a pink and purple color scheme just to complement her, and a little yellow because that's complementary to purple. Now, here's the final setup. I really loved how it turned out. I love all of the different themes and textures she can run around in. And the hide, this area is left undecorated in case she just wants simple dirt. And I just adore how it turns out, so we will see how she likes it. Now the first step is I'm going to move her into a little cup so it's much easier to transfer her. I just don't want any dirt falling if I rotate her original enclosure, so this always works for me. With a little push of a brush, she's motivated to go in, and it's just that easy. Next, we are just going to drop her into her new enclosure. Same method we did before, a little motivation from the brush, and that's it. I adore how this enclosure turned out, and she is so cute in it. It's the perfect size for her to grow up a little bit, and I'm just so happy. If you liked this video and this $10 enclosure, please remember to like and subscribe.